Ah, geez, the mod collection guys went crazy this week. And I love it. Welcome back, troglodytes, to your daily dose of guitar information, the Trogly's Guitar Show. Yep, it's that time. Let's do the mod collection demo shop recap. Alright, so last week was a little bit bland, but they just went absolutely insane, and I feel bad for this first guitar. Gibson Mod Collection Explorer Sympathetic Gold. Alright, we're starting with the big dog. What on earth is happening here? Gibson has stolen the idea of the original headless SG and incorporated it on an Explorer? At first I thought, oh my goodness, it's a 12 string because we've got 6 tuners up here, we've got 6 tuners right here. But no, my friends, that is not what this is. The reason the finish is called Sympathetic Gold is because of this right here. So we have a 12 string tailpiece, but 6 of the strings go down here towards the body with those gearless Steinberger tuners because these are meant to pick up the sympathetic vibrations of like when you play a note right here, say like you play a G. If you've ever been in orchestra class, when you play a G on a big double bass, all the violins and other instruments in the room that have a string corresponding with that will start to also vibrate. So some musicians take advantage of that to get some unique harmonics and overtones. So that's exactly what Gibson's done here. We've got 6 strings down here that are custom tunable. They put a Firebird pickup right there too. That's what just makes it so crazy is you've got a bass pickup on this thing for those. But then you've got your regular 6 strings right here that just tune up like normal. Now you'll also see that they did the Steinberger tuners up here as well. So say you purchased this and you don't care about sympathetic vibration guitars. You could technically modify this in some very interesting ways. The obvious one, you could technically convert this into a 12 string because you've got the tuners right here. You would just run them up through here, and what you would have to do is install a locking nut system, which would kind of make it a pain in the butt to tune, but you could technically get away with it because you're basically just like installing a stop bar tailpiece up here. But perhaps one of my favorite crazy ideas for this thing is if you got really, really long strings, you could technically string it up from here, go through this tailpiece, go all the way up here, and then end it off right here. Actually have 2 sets of tuners, but one's acting as like the stopping spot and one's acting as the beginning. But you could technically tune it from either direction. I think that'd be fun to play around with. You'd probably have to get some custom strings though, because that's a really long distance. That'd be cutting it for most string makers. So besides the weird inventiveness down here, strangely enough, they decided just to go 3 volumes, no tone control on this. But I know you're all dying to see the back. It's like the original headless SG. Nobody ever saw the back, so nobody knew how he did it until I hunted down that guitar and documented it for the world. But it was a very similar process. They just routed some of the body out right here, and then they put all the tuners in here. That's what's great about those gearless Steinbergers, is you can do things like that with them. But the back was done up in this gold finish. But what on earth is going on here? Our serial number, if you read it, dates to 2021, but there's no 420th day of the year. And then initial batch production, 666. I think somebody at Gibson was having a little bit too much fun with their number selections here. Because the only other way that we know how to read a Gibson serial number is the year translation, and it's not 2024 yet. And they also gave it a matching headstock. So I don't know what to think about it. I actually know the guy who got it, so I'm glad it went into a nice collection, but it was originally listed at $3,500. Sure, it would have been fun to document, but I had just a good enough of a time talking about it and hypothesizing right here. Next up, we had another one of these guys. But interestingly enough, only one, so there's still one of these unaccounted for. So if you're looking for one of these to add to your collection, maybe check out next week or the week after that. It was either that or it was sold at the Gibson garage. I reviewed and documented number 1 out of 5, and if anyone's interested, I'll sell it for $51.50 shipped within the continental US via New Guitar Day payment terms. Just email me. That video did surprisingly well, but it's one of those weird anomalies that it seems a lot of people want to learn about it, but not as many people want to own it. But speaking of own, look at this, Les Paul Classic half and half. So I saw this absolute monstrosity and I was like, do I want to document this? I'm not sure. What's actually fun is there is a custom shop version of this guitar out there. It was Would You Rock or Not 113. Now, in my opinion, that one looked better because this one mixed a dark tri-burst with a gold top. However, they did exactly some of the suggestions that I put in that video. They also half and half the back. So dark burst, gold top, and then the respective backings, a lighter cherry and then a darker cherry. They even went as far as the headstock. Well, at least with the tuners. I mean, generally both of these guitars are black veneer, so this is technically correct. So I was kind of on the fence about this one, but then I saw the one thing that made me say, yes, I need to buy and document this. Oh, Gibson, you guys have made me happy and upset at the same time. I've been on the record saying that Gibson's prototype writing on the back of the headstock and stuff, it stinks. It looks terrible. The 70s and 80s had it going on with the Gibson original prototype stamped directly into the wood. Now later in the early 90s, you started to see a decal, and what they've done is they've taken that exact design and changed it just a little bit. It says Gibson Original Modified, but this is the only one that has that, so I'm hoping they just leave that for putting it on the very, very special ones that they're super proud of. However, I would like to see them change it up from that 70s, 80s, early 90s version. Maybe do a more modernized take on the Gibson one, because I don't want them to dilute the coolness of those original stamps. But I'm glad to see that they're trying something different. But it's a little bit hard to tell if that's a decal or if they've actually stamped it into the wood. So whoever bought this guitar, if you're watching, let me know. I do know a guy who's interested in this, and I'd be curious to see how that stamp was actually done. But it seems Gibson was a little bit, I don't know if somebody's gonna buy this or not. So they gave you a slight discount on it at $18.99. And I can totally understand where they're coming from because, I mean, unless you're a collector, do you really want this? Or I guess if you're a quirky guitar player, it'll definitely get people's attention on stage. But if you look really closely, half the bridge and tailpiece are aged as well. They could have put this completely over the top if they would have did a half pickup cover. Like only the Goldtop side has a cover over it, but then you'd kind of risk maybe slicing your hand open or something. They'd have to round over those edges, but that would have been cool. So nice job on that mod, guys. Next up, we have a rather unremarkable 70s Flying V. I mean, it started life looking like this, all white, and then they just kind of changed our plastics up a little bit. However, the person who bought this actually emailed me and said, you know, this guitar, it's pretty basic, and yeah, I would agree. But they bought it for the case, and they're like, is this like some sort of a new olive drab case? I've never seen this before. Now, I only have one photo to go off of, but that looks like a government series case to me, the original series. They called these the money green cases. And on the inside, they were black. So if the interior of that one looks like this, yeah, you just got a government case. Which, let's just say, people will pay crazy money for those. We're talking like $500 to $800 because you just don't find them for sale separately ever, and they're just cool. But you can find those with like the government 335s. You can check out my review and demo here. There's SGs and Les Pauls too. So getting that case at this price, I mean, you only had to pay a $100 premium for it. Not too bad. Next up, 335 figured Satin Iced Tea. Not too much to really talk about this one. They just had different colored pickup rings. Similar story on VOS Buttercream here. I saw it was a pretty good deal, $4,400. I believe this brand new is about $5,500 because they charge a premium for these white finishes now. And the reason they have to do that is they have to make sure that the paint booth isn't contaminated or anything. But check out this Custom Shop 56 Standard, $4,500 called Thin Black Top. I'll be honest, I don't know what they're talking about. Why is it called Thin Black Top? Perhaps can you slightly see through it? Like they just did a really, really thin black finish. I mean, some of these things you just can't tell in the stock photography. But we've got a Bigsby B7 on here. Looks like maybe a slightly special pick guard. Chrome P90s, that's gonna look nice in person. Kind of has some old black vibes to it, the Neil Young guitar. Then the back is still natural. The standard 50s was called Wild Card. For $3,000, you got a hot purple metallic thing going on here with triple P90s, also with chrome covers. I mean, I'm sure this made somebody really, really happy. And the back is just like that other one, a straight up mahogany color. Now, initially, I was just going to briefly show you this one, but I'm just not realizing. ES335 VOS Funky Amber. Yeah, it's a funky amber color. Looks very similar to that other one we were just looking at, but oh. Those aren't the normal inlays for a 335, that's 345 style. I'm curious if this is actually a 345 or if they just got weird pickups on that one. Looks like some interesting figuring back here. And they ambered over the lacquer. This 50 standard Goldtop was offered at a discount. The most remarkable things about this one is the figured pattern in the back of the wood. That looks pretty nice. They even got some of that going on with the neck. But check out this faded Pelham blue Les Paul standard, right? Nah, this is one of those moderns, once again, toying with us. When you modify these things, they just don't look like what they're supposed to anymore. Until you flip them over to the back and then you can see, yep, they've got that thing going on. The best way not to get bamboozled is you gotta look at your fretboard inlays. These are real mother of pearl. Regular Les Paul standards don't get true mother of pearl. If you don't want a highly modernized Les Paul, you could go all the way back to 1979 with a Les Paul KM if you really need mother of pearl inlays, or just replace the ones that are currently on your standard. But to be 50s correct, you need the acrylics. They had another one of these 70s Explorers, classic white, but they gave it a green pickguard here for some reason, but no matching headstock this time, nor any stingers or half-necks, so it doesn't belong within the color series. However, I think during that I was like, hey, you guys should make a darker green one, so it's nice to see that they kind of followed up on that. They had a Les Paul Special in Graphite Black. This is one of those where, yeah, stock photography doesn't do much for this one. However, in person, it looks like it would have a nice like charcoal, slightly metallic look to it. That's definitely looking more like a satin finish right here, which would be correct based on the spec sheets here. The 60 standard was done up in trans cherry. That's a Les Paul Classic finish on one of our standards. Interesting. That must have been like a boo-boo or something, but kind of cool. But that wraps up the mod collection. Let's go ahead and check out the demo shop. Starting on the European side of things. So about 3 or 4 weeks ago, this shop used to only ever ship to the Netherlands and France, but then they opened it up to Germany, Spain, Italy, and Belgium as well. And if you were on Reverb's site within those countries, they had this big banner ad that said, hey, come check us out. We're new. And they just pumped out so many guitars, because we used to see like maybe 2 or 3 per week before this, but they pumped out like 20 each week plus. And then last week they didn't update at all. This week, still no updates, sorry. So I don't know what's happening at the European demo shop. They must just be waiting for more inventory to come in. So another updateless week from the EU shop. But thankfully the US shop has a few things to keep us entertained by. We'll start off with the ones that are currently available at the time of recording. There's another Les Paul Modern. Nothing too crazy here except for pretty nice figuring in the back of this one. A similar story on this 50s Goldtop, but instead of figuring, some interesting wood grain. Nice and wavy, but a rather light color at the same time. This 54 Les Paul reissue, I wanted to teach a lesson with you guys about, because I had somebody send me something similar to this and be like, ha, Gibson can't center anything just like that one from last week. Well, last week's, yeah, that was a centering issue with the decal. This one is done on purpose though, because specific years of the 50s Gibson had different logo positionings. So like the 54s, a lot of them will be a little bit lower. And somebody was recently just commenting on like one of the 59 reissues. They thought this was a little bit too high on the headstock. That's just also part of being vintage correct. So if you want to get upset with anybody, get upset with the 50s Gibson guys. Here was a custom shop SG Junior that kind of falls under a similar category. I'm wondering if it made it into this shop because this looks a little bit weird. Like it should be a little bit more tilted this way and maybe just slightly adjusted, but who knows? Maybe that's another vintage thing. This Axcess custom threw me for a loop. Crazy figuring here. I mean, this is a really nice one of these. Crazy figuring over here, except for where there's the ringage in the wood. Maybe it's just the photo angle, but that made me laugh. But that's one of those Axcess Les Paul customs. We don't see too many non-reverse Firebirds in the demo shop, so to see this custom shop one was quite a treat. Full-on trem arm with this one. Looks like a slider switch on that with the Firebird pickups. And a matching headstock on this one. I'd like to find like some exotic crazy colors. We've been seeing those cool reverse Firebirds and like my purple burst and my snakeskin one. Hopefully one day something interesting will catch my attention on one of these non-reverses. I think the coolest finishes I've seen on those are like the TV style ones where you can still see the wood grain like a TV yellow or something like that. And then we've got our dumpster fire trash guitar. I'm sorry. It's a 335 Satin. So what probably happened on this, because we saw something very similar to this last week, is there was a new guy learning how to buff guitars and he went too far in one area and buffed straight through the finish. Because they've got those giant wheels, I'm sure it's pretty easy to do. So instead of refinish the thing, they thought, okay, let's just take it to an extreme. Just in case you didn't notice, this is a lefty. So this guitar has a very small market to it. A, you had to find a lefty that wants a 335, and B, you have to find all that again, but somebody that appreciates the relic job. I anticipate this to be a tough sell for Gibson, but hey, it's got some nice figuring in within it, but that's being offered at $2,500. Now it's time for the stuff that was too cool to stay around. Starting with another one of these, Opaque Blue. We saw one of these, I think, 3 or 4 weeks ago, and I did an update in a different episode, but what this ended up being was a Japan exclusive run of these Opaque Blue custom shop Les Paul reissues. Because if you go to eBay right now and type in opaque blue Gibson, you'll actually see these things listed over there. Now these are brokers. You can check out this video if you need to learn more about these. And they're running around $7,000 depending on the guy. I mean, this one's a little bit cheaper at $6,000. So to be able to get a Japan exclusive for a $2,000 discount, yeah, that's not too bad. I think over there they were originally about $5,000 though. So it's possible that this was over in Japan and it got rejected and then sent back, or Gibson caught it before they sent it out. Whatever was wrong with it. Yeah, a little small marks right here. Okay, granted, that one's a little bit more extreme. I wouldn't want that on a brand new guitar either, but that'll eventually happen anyways. The 70s Flying V, part of Gibson's exclusives collection, is done up in black. I mean, it's not too fancy in that aspect, but $16.99 versus them normally charging $22 for it, and Gibson.com does not haggle. That's some pretty good savings. Same thing with this one. Same price, but even cheaper. In fact, I had a private help session this week of a guy asking me about these 70s Explorers. I haven't done a full review and demo of the new Gibson 70s Explorer, but I told him, you don't even need to buy one of these things at a shop. Just wait for the demo shop to update. They normally have one every week, and if not every week, at least every other week, and you're gonna save yourself a whole bunch of money like that if you can live with a few small blemishes. So I'd gotten an email from him this week. Hey, thanks for your help. I got it. And he thanked me for being such an amazing resource. I tell you guys, I offer the private help sessions on my website as more of a service to you guys. I know it might seem expensive to commission a question, but it's really just to cover my time, and you generally end up saving yourself way more money than the initial cost. So it's a triple win situation. But now I think this was probably the best deal of the entire week. So listed as a regular Les Paul Custom Ebony, Custom Shop Modified. You guys know what this is, right? I mean, they're going after the Peter Frampton model, which Gibson, just in case you didn't know, they do have a Peter Frampton model out there. However, I don't think that's what this one is. By the way, I have one of those. If anybody wants to get a deal on one via New Guitar Day payment terms, just reach out to me. This one seems to have some minor scratches to it. But I think this actually started life as a reissue custom. Now, obviously, they probably had to add the third humbucker in here, do the cream poker chip and other stuff. But it's got a true ABR1 bridge, so it can't be a regular custom like they advertised it at. Those regular customs are $5,000 brand new, so they priced it at a discount for that. However, I think it's actually a particular year reissue guitar. Now, the 57s, strangely enough, you can buy them in 2 and 3 pickup variations for the exact same price. It's like, come on, Gibson, you can at least give yourself a $100 premium for a third pickup right here. They don't upcharge you until you start adding the Bigsby. But this one has the plastic tip tuners to them. So I think this might have actually started life as one of these guys, because that has the correct tuners on it. They just would have had to have added that middle pickup. But still, that's a 68 reissue, worth a good $1,200 more than a regular Les Paul Custom. Even more so if it ended up being a 57 just with like modified tuners. Maybe we can find out based on the specs. It looks like both of these came with nylon nuts, so that fits the description there. But what's our top wood? Okay, mahogany with maple top. So yeah, this had to have been a 68 style reissue because the 57s have mahogany tops. And they do say that they added the middle pickup. So yeah, that was a 68 reissue custom that was modified. To be fair though, they're marking some other black customs down a whole lot more than this one. But that was a great deal for someone. Now this double neck, EDS-1275, I think Gibson got incredibly lucky somebody bought it as fast as they did. It was almost instantaneously. Within 11 minutes, this thing was gone. Their last double neck sat around for months, so somebody must have just been in the market for one of these things and didn't mind that it had a few blemishes. I mean, $6,000 is not cheap for one of these. Brand new, they're $8,000 now, but with the 2022 price increases, this was the one model that increased the most. Like, it was a good couple $1,000s. $6,000 will really give you almost the pick of the litter as far as double necks go. I mean, people ask high prices, but there are very few people actually buying these. You either have collectors or you just have somebody who wants it for the weird novelty of it. And most collectors that just want one in their collection to say they have a double neck, they'll go with like some sort of a artist reissue like the Slash one that we reviewed here, or like the Don Felder signature, or even the Alex Lifeson. But hey, I'm glad this found the absolute right home where it's going to be loved. And our last one today, I saved a good one to wrap it up today. It's advertised as Gibson Les Paul Oversized Bass. So that made me think, is it really oversized? I mean, it's a Les Paul bass. You don't see those too often. I mean, technically, these have existed since the early 70s within the Triumph bass lineup. It's kind of like a Les Paul Custom meets low impedance electronics. They're interesting. But looking at this one, I mean, you've got a good amount of distance from here to there, from there to there. And you look at this one, it doesn't look that much different. So I don't think it's actually like obnoxiously oversized and that's why it was rejected. I think it's just a regular Les Paul bass, but I could be wrong. Maybe there's something weird going on with this one, but it's got some nicks and dings. And ooh, only a gig bag, darn. But it sold rather quickly at $1,500. All right, troglodytes, I hope you enjoyed tonight's episode. There were some real doozies in here. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you tomorrow on the next episode. Take care.